Welcome, everyone. Вітаємо всіх to St. Vladimir Institute's fourth cultural event, which is actually our fourth culinary event. So my name is Julia Metelitsa. If you haven't met me before, it's great to virtually meet you. And we are back again with Chef Mykola Rutkay, and of course with his family as well. So I'll be helping him manage your questions throughout the hour. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat. So it's great to see people tuning in from all over. Of course, I saw Oakville, Hamilton, Saskatoon, Chicago. So really great to see everyone from all across different areas of the country and the world. So I would like to begin by acknowledging the land from which this event is being broadcast. So Toronto is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, and the Wendat peoples. And it's now the home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I really encourage you to find out more about the land on which you are currently broadcasting from and tuning in from. For those of you who are not maybe familiar with St. Vladimir Institute or SVI, it is a multifaceted institution in downtown Toronto, Canada, housing a 46-room student residence and providing a home to 13 organizations, including the Ukrainian Museum of Canada, Ontario branch, and the Seuss Foundation of Canada, its founding organization. SVI is also a public cultural center with the theater, library, and event spaces. And it's a community hub offering cultural programming, Ukrainian language lessons, and social events. Cultural programming is a key to SVI's mission, vision, history, and legacy. So it's key to strengthening the identity and community of individuals of Ukrainian descent, while also making an important contribution to the national culture of Canada. And so that's why we are here today. So welcome, and I'm glad you're all able to join us. I, of course, want to also thank the Shevchenko Foundation, Temerty Foundation Community Development Fund, and the Seuss Foundation of Canada, and of course, the Delta Bingo and Gaming. So thank you to all our supporters for making all these events possible. Of course, as we are tuned in on Zoom, I would just ask that everyone does stay muted to avoid any sort of interferences. Additionally, as you heard, this event is being recorded. So if your camera is on, just a note about that. And finally, we encourage you to keep your cameras on so we can see what you are cooking up in your kitchen. If you'd like to ask any sort of questions, you are more than welcome to. Feel free to send them into the chat, like I mentioned, and I'll be sure to pass them on to Mykola and to his family. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mykola Rutkay. He's a graduate of one of Canada's top chef schools at George Brown College. He has worked in the restaurant industry for over a decade and is currently the head chef at Joey Restaurant Group in Toronto, where he has won several cooking competitions and is a Manager of the Year award. So Mykola credits his love of cooking to his talented grandmother and mother, of course, who are joining us today. So Pani and Moskaliuk and Darcia Moskaliuk Rutkay. Mykola also lives and cooks with his wife, Cassie, in Toronto. So they are joining us today, and so is Bob Rutkay. We got to mention everyone, and can't forget your puppy as well. So welcome. And today, Mykola will be sharing, of course, his tips and tricks on how to make holubtsi and a mushroom sauce, so hrabove sauce. So I would like to begin and pass off the torch to you, Mykola. Maybe let's start with what inspires you to become a chef? Let's start there.
Well, what inspires me to be a chef is the food on the table. We did the video with the vareniki and Holubtsi were my food I ate growing up, and it's what I like to eat every day, if I can. But yeah, I just really like to eat. So that's what inspired me to be a chef. I mean, Baba and Mama, I've had two amazing cooks my whole life. So I started at an early age. I think I was cooking with Mama before I could talk. That's how it all started. And it was just kind of a no-brainer on how I got here. I don't make a lot of holubtsi, so this is a lot of what Baba's going to teach today, and I'll throw my culinary spin on it. But there's how I would do it, you know, in the restaurant, and how I do it at home. But at the end of the day, this is all from Baba, and we're going to show a ton of different ways you can do it. But you know, I like the simplistic approach, so you'll hear a lot of that, and then. We have Mama and Baba. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else, no?
Yeah, Baba is, she's a pioneer, and she has been making holubtsi her entire life, and she has her way of doing it. Growing up in Canada and having exposure to different peoples across the country, I've picked up different tricks. But it always, in this house, it always comes back to Baba. So I can experiment all I want, but when it comes down to the family favorite, it's how Baba made it. So I will introduce some of the different things that I've picked up over the miles in Canada and United States as well.
Yeah, and so the way Baba does it's the right way. So we're gonna start off. So today, a big part of holubtsi is waiting for it to cook in the oven. But we're going to start off in the kitchen, and Mama's going to show you how, we should have gotten ahead on this, but Mama's going to show you how we blanch the cabbage. Tell you.
Am I on?
You are on.
Okay, so the cabbage, it's to blanch it or to steam it, it's very simple, just a pot of water. The cabbage will not give until it's steamed a little bit. So, and it tells you when it wants to come loose. So you'll see, I can do some leaves, but some don't give, and you can feel it with the fork that when it gives. So in this case, this one's done, and it's telling me already to remove it. So I'm removing it. There we go.
You want help?
I'm just going to show a couple of leaves because we can then move on to how to cut it. And these leaves are quite large. It doesn't take long, and it really loosens up quickly. So the water is boiling. I don't add anything else to the water, just the cabbage. And just as a note, never throw out your cabbage water. Freeze it in bags or in jars, and use it for your base for borscht or whatever other vegetable soups that you're making. It makes a really good base. So see, it's telling me it comes apart on its own. So it really does it. It's very simple. You just make sure that it's submerged. Oh, and I forgot to tell you that it's really important to core it in the center. That really makes it simple. So, you know, they're not releasing. Well, they're starting to, but it goes very, very quickly. Once it's ready, it tells you, and it releases quickly, and it's just super simple. Now I've prepared some cabbage leaves to show you how to cut them. And I think at this point, that's what we're going to do. We're going to just go.
Yeah, so we're going to switch back over.
Yeah.
Do the main screen.
Okay. All right.
Right, yeah, normally I cut all the leaves off first and make a big mess, so that's a very clean way to do it. And then Mama's just going to show you, obviously we have this whole plate of cut leaves, but Mama's going to show you how we.
So this is a large leaf from the cabbage, and you see the core in the center. Now this is a large one. I'm going to cut it into 3 pieces. So I'm going to cut this part here, and then I'm going to cut this way. And our cabbage, our holubtsi are rather, they're medium sized. We don't make the giant ones, do we, Mama?
No, never giant.
I like a smaller holubtsi.
Well,
Holubets, how would you say it? What's the proper
Holubets.
pronunciation? Holubets?
Holubets. I don't know if you can see. Can you see?
Yeah,
No.
so here, so yeah.
Yeah, so
this
I've
one?
already explained it.
Got it. Yeah,
There.
so they're cut into, that's a bigger leaf, but you're looking at these sizes. And so you don't have to worry about it being too perfect. So when I did it with Bob and I'm trying to learn, you get little leaves like that, you can still roll that up. Nothing goes to waste.
And Baba will show you how to do
Yeah,
that.
so you can get any kind of size. It depends what you like. We like small ones in our family. It's what I grew up on.
And Ginger loves cabbage.
And this is the dog.
I told you, it'd be all the family members, the dog and
Yeah.
everyone.
Okay,
Perfect. So as everyone's cutting, someone mentioned that they use a large electric drill to core the cabbage. So I guess that's an approach to take as well. But when you core it, you just use a regular knife, or you have any other special skills?
well,
Paring knife.
Baba uses a grapefruit knife. She says that works the best. Bob uses a very sharp knife when he does his. It's whatever works best with your hands. 3 or 2.
This, if you're gonna cover it.
So
in-
quick question about the piece in the middle, the hard piece, I guess, in the middle. Do you leave it? Do you?
You want to
take-
save
take it
that,
out?
if it goes on, you want to put that on the bottom of your roaster.
Actually, show it.
So that way it doesn't burn in the oven. So we have one prepared, but we use those cores to line the bottom of the roaster with. So that way, because it's baking for 2 hours.
Yeah, and also I give it a spray with, you know, the nonstick spray, the, not olive oil, but
Just
the,
oil.
just
Ham?
Pam or the Costco spray. And then I put the hard ribs in there, and that keeps the holubits off the bottom. And you can try to get it off to the side, but it's not as crucial as the bottom. Not to put the holubtsi right on the bottom because they will burn. There you go.
But you can also use foil
Yes,
instead of the ribs.
and you can also use parchment paper.
Yeah, so that,
So if you throw them out, you can use foil or parchment.
yeah.
That's right. Okay, Baba, start.
Okay, so Baba's gonna talk, I'm gonna do all the heavy lifting, but Baba's gonna talk about what we have.
Now, we've got cooked rice. There are 2 cups of cooked rice
That's kept rice, and there's some salt already in there.
and 3 large onions fried in oil.
Okay, so yeah, these are the caramelized onions, so 3,
You mix this.
yeah,
Mix
should we mix this
that.
first?
You mix that all up.
Okay,
This
so
is the garlic powder.
Okay. Put that.
okay, so we got salt, we got rice, we got onions. Then what's next, Baba?
I'll put the
Garlic powder?
powder.
Can you use fresh garlic?
You can
Yeah.
use with the onions.
But this is how I've eaten it my whole life with
Yeah,
garlic
yeah,
powder,
well,
right?
I do it this way.
This-
It's easier.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, now you can put.
So
the
if we
meat.
were to do the fresh garlic, you were saying to do it with the onions, right? As you're cooking that.
And
Perfect.
1 pound of ground beef.
So that goes in raw, because it'll cook in the oven.
But you can cook it a little bit before you put it in if you like. But it's not necessary.
And so it's okay if the rice is a little overcooked too, that's not bad. It really, it adds to that stickiness. So I think it's in the recipe. You can use whatever rice you'd like. You can use a long grain or a short grain.
Yeah.
But the starches from the rice are what help bind everything together. And then if you're using, you can use brown rice. I don't think it's as good. Baba's gonna have a heart attack. You can use it. It's not as good though. It won't have the same texture. You have to add more oil. So
And
prefer.
or sauce, so you
Yeah.
can add tomato juice, and I'll talk about a sauce that you can put into the body of the holubtsi. If you overcook your rice, you don't want mushy rice. You want the rice to be separated and that
Granular.
yeah, more granular than mushy. So you don't want to over stir it either. You also want, at this time, Mykola's put in the meat already, but this is where you can put your optional items. And before you put in the meat. So for vegetarian fare, you can put in fried mushrooms, you can put in carrots, just finely grated carrots, raw. You can put dill in, and there's a big discussion in this house about dill. I love holubtsi with dill. My family doesn't.
I've never had them that way. It doesn't exist in this house.
But Baba doesn't do it with dill, but Mama does.
Yeah.
And then it's really up to you if you want to have the vegetarian style without the meat or with the meat. But I think once you have, when it's vegetarian,
Yeah, a little bit more.
the more you put in terms of mushrooms, dill, and carrot, it makes it lovely to look at as well. We have had some people suggest pepper. You can do finely chopped pepper. You don't have to pre-cook it because it does get baked in the oven for 2 hours.
Oh, like a bell pepper?
Yeah, bell pepper or red pepper, just for the color.
Yeah, and there should be black pepper in here. Tato can't have black pepper, so we do it without it.
That's right.
But in yours, you can put black pepper. This is obviously a very simple version, but that's how Baba does it. So that's how I eat it, and everything else is fake.
That's hilarious. So we had just a couple questions in here. I know some individuals are suggesting a few tips back and forth, which is great to see the conversation rolling. So during Lent, of course, when there's no meat, you were just suggesting some vegetarian options. Someone else said they use buckwheat as well. So do you wanna, I know you talked about using different kinds of rice.
You wanna walk through that?
Sure. So here's the buckwheat. Baba prepared the buckwheat today with plenty of onions. And again, Baba doesn't use dill in her buckwheat. I use dill. And buckwheat does need more oil than rice. So when you're preparing your buckwheat, do you want to go through the steps how you do this?
Well, I rinse I measure the buckwheat, then I rinse it, and I start to cook it in cold water. Now, if I use a cup of buckwheat, then I use 2.5 cups of water, and it'll be for say 1 cup of buckwheat. I need about 2 big onions, fried onions, and that would be for if I was having it for Christmas Eve. But for other times, you can put, or even for Christmas Eve, you can put mushrooms. You can fry mushrooms with your onions, and that gives it very good flavor. And that's about all.
And because the buckwheat's not going to stick as well, so the caramelized onions really help bind it together. It'll add that more moist texture to it.
And also there, if you wish, and I was very surprised when I read this in a recipe book that people put tomato sauce inside.
Well,
I tend to use passata. It's like ground tomatoes, and I loosen that passata with better than bouillon mushroom base in hot water, and then loosen it up, and I add only about 1/2 cup into the rice, and that helps bind it as well.
Perfect. So yeah, you can always add different things in between. And just in case anyone is wondering, that buckwheat recipe that Pani Mosfilip was talking about is on our website. So if you wanted to check it out, feel free to go there. Quick question. Someone said they put the core, they leave the core and when they cut the cabbage, they just have it thinly sliced. So it's, I guess, parted and part of it's in one slice and the other. Is that all right? Or do you just think it's...
You can just slice it very thinly if you wish it, and not to waste it.
If the core is
So
heavy.
So for this is a handful of cabbage, and I've just put a big spoonful of filling in there. I'm folding it over. You can leave the thicker end, you can leave that open. You don't have to fold that in, and you can roll it. So you see that it's open on that side. I don't know if you can see it. And that side is folded over.
I'll show it. Yeah.
We got one side open, one side closed.
Yeah. And then, Mama, do you want to show how you do your both sides closed?
Well,
It's Ukrainian sushi.
It is.
So it can be,
Well, yeah, well, I have the, I'm going to close this completely.
So we're rolling it up now. I think everyone at home is finishing up their filling. Moving over to this next step, which is rolling it up.
And this takes the longest, right? So this is where you want to get a lot of help.
And I have one that's closed completely. Okay.
So that's close on both ends. So that you don't have to be picky. There's not really a right or wrong with it, which is forgiving.
yeah, I was going to say, I noticed some of the chefs, the notable chefs out there. One particular one who is of Polish origin, she would use the entire leaf of the cabbage. Now I'm going to show you an entire leaf of the cabbage.
We're going to do a giant one.
Yeah.
Is that enough, Baba?
Well, a little bit more for that.
So just a question, everyone's wondering if you can show them how much you're putting and then how you're rolling it up.
So
So-
that's, I would say I have an average sized hand. So that's a big cabbage leaf. So I would say 1/5 of the leaf should be
It's about a quarter cup.
about a quarter cup, about a quarter cup of filling for a nice big cabbage leaf like that. And also, I don't think, if you like it a little bit more cabbagey, you can put less in. If you like it with less cabbage, you just roll it until we can do a small one.
So
Baba.
I'm showing this gigantic one that the queen of kitchen cooking and home instructor. So she uses the entire cabbage leaf. She's cut off the rib of the cabbage so it's pliable, and then she rolls it up as such. So she really uses a lot of cabbage in there. See, and I find it too cabbagey this way, but some people like it that way. And there it is. It's all encompassed, one giant cabbage roll, and that's a meal right there.
And then here's here's a little janky leaf, so it's really small, and you just put less filling in. So however you feel comfortable, and then this one you just fold over and roll with what you have, and then you get a little baby one there. So it depends on how big your cabbage is cut. There's no right or wrong, because it's cooking for 2 hours. You don't have to worry about will it cook or not. It just helps all the flavors melt together and cook down the cabbage. If you undercook it, right, it won't cut as well, right, Baba?
No.
Like it'll tear a little bit versus if you cook it properly, you can cut it with a knife. It's a little less messy that way. But I don't know if is there any other questions?
Yes, there are a few coming in here. So as you're rolling it, just a few asked what's the easiest way to roll? So I'm seeing that you're doing it from the bottom and then the sides. Is that?
Yeah, so there's no right or wrong, but so how I'm doing it is I'm just, I like to pull in a side. I don't know if it's how Baba does it, so I'm doing. You do the bottom.
You do the bottom.
Okay,
then
bottom.
you close it
Then
up.
you do the sides.
Yeah.
And then generally I'll have one side that closes easier. So I can use more filling on that one. I like it a little more full. So coming in, put the bottom over, bring in a side, kind of tuck it in, and then you just roll all the way over. Let's get it on screen. And then these sides, you get that open side. What you can do is you just tuck it in. And then you can just press it. And it's pretty forgiving, because when you blanch the cabbage, or you're boiling the cabbage, it just makes it very malleable. And you can kind of press it in, and then as that cooks for 2 hours, that's going to stay in that shape. You don't have to worry about it
Unrolling, because that was the next question, is how do you keep it from unrolling once they are cooked, actually? So not when they're nicely snug together, but
when it cooks, it'll stick together. And then you can see we have a lot. So you can use, you can put them in flat, you can put them in standing up. I think there's a debate on whether you like that.
But standing up is easier to get them out of the pot.
Yeah, it's easier without messing them up.
Yeah, because I've always done that way rather than laying them flat. And But maybe if it's for your own family, doesn't matter.
Okay, so we're gonna finish this roaster up, and then we're going to start with the other roaster, and we're lying these flat as opposed to standing up. So we're gonna have two different, oh, he's making a giant one with a little bit of cabbage.
And I think there was more questions, right?
Yes, there are. So one was how much rice is used for this particular recipe? I think it is listed, but I can find that
Yeah.
in a minute unless you
Yeah,
know.
that was 2 cups.
2 cups. 2
Yeah,
cups.
we used 2 cups for this one.
Perfect. And then the best is, what do you find the best cabbage for holubtsi? Savoy, green, flat? Have you used red cabbage? What's your preference?
So Baba has bought us the flat cabbage, and she bought it in the summertime, and we've just kept it in the fridge or outside. It was the large flat cabbage. The one I showed you earlier is the rounded cabbage. The trick here is that the leaves should be very fine. You don't want a thick cabbage. If you have a thick cabbage, leave it for sauteing or something else. They don't make very good holubtsi. And I know you don't always have a choice, but try to get as thin a cabbage as possible, preferably a summer cabbage.
Yeah, so this is a green cabbage from the summertime where you get nicer cabbage.
Right.
You can use a Savoy.
Oh, yeah. I love
You
Savoy.
get, see, Mama likes Savoy. I find the Savoy, I like when the cabbage gets a little wetter. And the Savoy cabbage is a little bit, it'll have more bite to it. You'll get a little bit more texture. So some people like that. I like it when it's mushy. I like it to taste like it's just one big cabbage roll,
Well,
one
that's
small
well
cabbage
done.
roll.
Yeah, it's well done.
So you can use Savoy. You could use Napa cabbage too.
Have you done it with Napa cabbage?
Yeah, I've done it. I didn't like it as much, but
No.
you can. Any cabbage will work.
Perfect. So you can get anything that's available for sure at the store.
Okay.
What I was gonna say is, you know, if you get your cabbage in the summertime and you're not gonna use it right away, it freezes. So if you do the steaming of the cabbages that I showed you earlier, and you don't even have to take off the cores, just fold it up and put it into either resealable bags, the reusable bags, or Ziploc bags, or old milk bags, and you can freeze it, and it comes out beautiful afterwards. So you just take it out, it's defrosted, and it's an easy way of making cabbage rolls. And that is actually something that we do for Christmas, so that we would do our cabbage, prepare our cabbage now, and then just before Sviatbacha, we would pull out those frozen leaves and use those. It's a really good method of doing it. And again, don't throw out your cabbage water, because it makes a really good base for your
Soup.
borscht or soups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a few questions. When you do have it frozen, do you just defrost it then and then skip the boiling or immersing in the water method?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't need to do that anymore. Once it's frozen, and it'll be really pliable. So if you can't get a thin cabbage and it's a thick cabbage, and it's the only choice you have, then it's the only choice you have. What you can do is you can boil it for a minute or so that it's really cooked through and softened. And then freeze it if you can, because that will make it more malleable. Once it bakes up, it's easier, and it's not as thick and chewy as it would normally be. So you really want to be able to soften that thick cabbage. This is an amazing cabbage that we have right now. It's so fine, and it's really done well. And you saw that I didn't keep it in the hot water for a long time at all.
Yeah. A few guests are wondering where you got this fabulous flat cabbage.
Oh, at the corner store.
Yeah,
Metro, any vegetable.
you have to watch for it.
Yeah,
Not every
the-
store carries it.
Yeah, the flat ones, usually at the ethnic stores, Italian stores, Italian,
Chinese.
Chinese or Korean stores. You can easily find them there.
Okay.
Perfect. So once you put them in that roaster there, does it matter what sizes they are, or do you usually put them in the same size?
No, you have to, no, we have to cover them up. I put a little bit of oil.
Yeah, but they're asking if it's okay if they're different sizes.
It's
It's
the whole-
fine.
It doesn't matter.
Because they're all stuck together,
Yeah.
they're all gonna cook.
Yeah.
They turn into one big cabbage roll until you take them out.
Yeah.
So the whole thing cooks like a casserole, so it doesn't matter what the size is.
I put a little bit of salt on top.
We're gonna show that right now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
So we've
both-
been filling up the pot. This way you did it, them standing up, and now you're doing them lying down, right?
Lying down.
So
So Mykola, can you pass the oil that's behind you in a
Yeah.
second?
Is there any other questions before we're moving quick?
No,
Yeah.
we're going through them. I think we've covered them all. If I missed your question, put it back. I'm trying to cover all of them though.
I'm giving you tomato
So
juice.
now I'm going to lightly, yeah, so we need to do the
I
tomato
bet.
juice, but I need the oil as well. So you lightly salt the cabbage rolls, and this is kosher salt. My family likes the shaker. I don't like the shaker. I
don't
like
a shaker. I use kosher salt.
kosher
I'm the
salt.
one who taught her to get kosher salt. I don't use a shaker.
There's the tail wagging the dog. Okay, so I'm just sprinkling a little bit of salt over top because the cabbage does need some salt. And then I'm going to turn this over to Mama, and she can show you how much oil she uses and how much tomato juice she uses. And we do it by sight.
So, and then for oil, you can use canola oil. But we're using an avocado. Avocado oil is really great. And grapeseed oil is really great. It's more expensive, but you can get it at Costco for pretty cheap. So
Not that we're advertising Costco.
yeah, we're not affiliated with Costco, but we like Costco.
Okay,
So-
I'm pouring the oil.
So what does the oil
Very-
do, Baba?
Well, it makes the cabbage, you know, it softens the cabbage.
Softens it.
Yeah, and it gives it a little body, not too much, spare.
So you're just lightly coating.
Yeah,
You're drizzling it over every little bit of the cabbage. It helps the cooking process.
Yeah.
It helps keep it moist,
No.
right?
we always use tomato juice, but a lot of people don't like tomato juice, so you can put just plain water.
Here, I
And-
can talk about that.
Yeah.
So I had, not my son, but I had another professional cook who was teaching me to do big quantity of Holubtsi, and she was
Gotcha.
worried about it burning. So what she told me was that you cover it in water. So you put the water in, not tomato sauce or tomato juice. And you cook them almost to the end. So half an hour before you are going to pull them out, because you're going to put them in at 350 for 1 hour,
Okay,
and
just a
then
minute.
turn down the oven to 325 for another hour. And oh, Cassie, can you pass that plate? Yeah,
No, I need a cover.
yeah, but you need the cook with over top.
Yeah, well, that's-
And then for half an hour, you put the tomato juice or sauce. Now, when it comes to tomato juice, that's a simple version. That's what they like. I use passata, and
need a little
again,
more
the
tomato juice.
mushroom better than bouillon.
just a bit.
Or do you-
Yeah, put a little bit more.
Bouillon to thin it out. And that's what I pour over top, and the mushroom gives it a really good flavor. So now Mama
Hang
is,
on, before, because Baba just did one of her things where she doesn't teach you. So when you pour it on, I just learned this just now from Baba, you're coating it all, and she's looking for a little bit to be sitting at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for?
Yeah.
So there's just about half an inch of juice sitting on the bottom, which is how much you should put on, but you're also making sure you're coating them all.
Yeah.
Now what are you doing, Baba?
I'm covering this up so the tops of the cabbage rolls don't burn. And so I'm just covering with whatever. You can even put oil or the very green leaves of the cabbage.
Yes.
there's also another method, and I know our family in Ukraine uses this method, and a lot of people use this method where they have a heavy bottomed Here you go, you can cover that.
I'm gonna show them. Do you want more?
They use a heavy bottom of pan on top of the stove. And they boil it on top of the stove at 350 for an hour and then turn it down for another hour. So it doesn't make a difference in timing. It's just a different method of cooking them.
And what we've done is we just covered the tops with some smaller leaves. You can use the outer leaves that don't look as nice, and it just stops them from burning. And then on top of that, whoa,
Oh,
on top of that, we go with some tin foil.
Well, you can use the top, just the top.
Oh, we can just use the roast
Yeah.
top. That helps.
Yeah.
There you go.
I always cover it in foil.
So Mama covers it in foil. We're gonna cover that in foil.
Yeah, we'll do that one.
On that,
Perfect. So at the bottom, we put the core, we filled up the holubtsi, and then you put it on, you put the leaves on top, or you can put foil as well. So
That's right.
and you put it in the oven, you start at 350
Okay, I'm going to go
for
and do
about
that.
an hour, and then you turn it down to 325 and cook for another hour. But you have to test it, depends on the leaves.
So Mama's just gonna put that roaster in for now. The camera's fine, we moved it. That's gonna be our dinner, so it's going in right away. So the faster you make these, the quicker you're gonna be having dinner. We're gonna be rolling the rest of these up. I don't know if there's any other questions that popped up.
I have a question.
Oh, here's a question from Cass.
What are you looking for doneness? How do you know that they're done?
Well, you just tried with a fork how the cabbage is. If the cabbage is soft, you know the inside is cooked.
Okay,
So
so,
it's just the cabbage that
Yeah.
you have to test.
so you're, the question, I don't know if you heard it, but how you know it's cooked, but you're just testing the doneness of the cabbage.
Here's,
You want some more?
here's another one for you.
I'm doing it.
All right,
All right.
there you go.
perfect. So far, no other questions in the chat. I think everyone is busy rolling their cabbage rolls and
Okay.
putting them in the roaster.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna finish these up. We're almost there, and then we're gonna move into the mushroom sauce. So the mushroom sauce is something, you know, very traditional. So myself and Baba have two different ways of doing that. So the recipe I shared was the way I would do it. So we're gonna loosely follow that. It's very similar, and then we're going to, you know, show the way Baba would do it. So we're just setting up. Is our camera set up? Okay, so we're gonna move into the we're gonna move into the kitchen, and
I'm going to roll the buckwheat.
Quick question about, do you use tomato juice for the buckwheat holubtsi as well?
do you use tomato juice for the buckwheat holubtsi, Mama?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Yes, I do.
yeah. So the
So
tomato
tomato-
juice.
Or
You can use a tomato sauce. You could use a tomato puree. You
Yeah.
could use absolutely anything.
okay.
Single high.
Okay, so oh, not triple high. This is a fancy stove. So we're gonna, here, we'll use this for now. So what we have here's our Ukrainian spatula. What we have in the pot is just some onions, or is there garlic, Baba?
No.
No,
there's
so we're not putting garlic in today, but you can put garlic in there, and then mushrooms. And then we're just gonna saute that. So we just turned it on. And we're gonna cook it out until the mushrooms get nicely cooked through and you get a lot of aroma. And then, yeah, this isn't something I think everyone's rolling their holubtsi. We're gonna have, you can use water for this. You can use stock. We have a beef stock that we're using for this. And then it's just gonna be flour and butter. And then what's inside the pot? A little bit of butter.
It's butter at the
Butter.
bottom and onions and the mushrooms. Yeah. Yeah.
This
This is- if you're
Huh?
doing it for Christmas Eve, you wouldn't put butter, you would put oil instead of butter.
And
Perfect. So you got the mushrooms, the onions, the oil or the butter in that pot. Great.
Yeah, so for Christmas, no butter, sub oil. And then yeah, you can use them, you can make a mushroom stock. Mama included what's the cubes you use?
No, the better than bouillon.
Yeah.
Better than bouillon.
Yeah,
Um,
but you know, for Christmas Eve, what I do is I brown the flour a little bit. You have to watch it very carefully because it burns fast. So you just brown it a little bit, you use a fork and just keep on mixing it.
We'll show that, I think. We can do that here. And that's, so if you're making this, so essentially when we're adding the flour and the butter, we're making a roux.
Yeah.
And that's a thickening agent. And so the further you toast the flour, the more flavor you're gonna have. So when you're just using water, there's not a lot of flavor in water because it's water. You want to get some of that flour toasted to get that flavor. You lose, the more you toast flour though, the less thickening it becomes. So we'll take it to a point on here maybe where it's maybe we'll call it a blonde roux, where it starts to change color and just becomes a little bit aromatic. And then so that's gonna get going. And so the recipe we've shared and we're going to have is going to be, the way I do it. So Baba made some ahead of time. So this is the one.
Yeah.
You have to have your standard, never throw out your sour cream containers. Baba made some of her method. So you go through this method here that we're doing now. And then where do you go from here? You just put the flour in here and shake it?
Yeah, well, not with the mushrooms, separately.
Separately with water?
With water.
Yeah, so
Just to thicken.
yeah, so if you're in a pinch, the way Baba goes through it is just puts the flour and water in the container and just shakes it. I like to mix it in with the fat. What that does is it helps distribute the flour a little bit more evenly into the sauce, and then you get a very velvety, smooth sauce. You don't get any lumps.
Well, you don't get lumps the way I do it.
The way Baba does it, she doesn't get lumps ever. That's almost 100 years of experience.
Yeah, almost.
And I'm not close to that. So I have to do the only way I know how.
Well, you keep stirring, she'll shake. Maybe one day yours won't have lumps.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
A couple questions. I know as you're making the sauce, so feel free to interject, but someone said that they have put butter or margarine on top of their on top of the holubtsi. Have you done that before, or just the tomato?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. You can, if you have the open cabbage roll, you can just put a bit of margarine or butter on top, or a little bit of oil.
One.
But I don't. I just put it all over rather than just on each one.
Makes
But
sense.
if you have a lot of cabbage rolls, yes, you would do that.
Great. And then have you ever used mashed potatoes to bind for buckwheat?
I didn't, but I know people that do. But just turns me off with potatoes in the
Well, then
rice.
it ends up being varaniki, and then we're getting into a whole other course. So we'll just stick with the buckwheat.
Yeah. I know that I was told the other day that she uses the potatoes shredded very fine, but potato is a potato to me. I just want that rice taste.
There are people who use Metelitsa.
I know they do, but
Well, I'm sure you can do many fillings. Cornmeal, yep, mamaliga, like you said.
Yeah.
Quinoa, even, I'm sure that's something new.
Illegal.
Some individuals said they put bacon fat into their on top of their holubtsi instead of butter, so that's an option, I guess.
That's approved.
Yeah.
Bacon fat's
perfect.
very approved. Bacon fat on anything's approved.
For sure, why not? And then some individuals also said they put sauerkraut on top of their holubtsi as well.
Yeah, Mama just got really excited because she loves them rolled in sauerkraut. You can actually use it. You can ferment the whole leaves and roll it that way.
Wow.
And another thing, you can use the sauerkraut, but you have to really squeeze it out and wash it. And instead of putting the foil at the bottom or the ribs at the bottom of the pan, that you could just
Use sauerkraut.
For sure.
yes. But I was going to say you have to really squeeze the sauerkraut well, so it wouldn't be sour, and put it at the bottom. and then put your cabbage rolls on top. But then you wouldn't use tomato juice.
Makes
At
sense,
least
whole
I
different
do.
flavor. So question about the mushroom sauce you're making right now. Is the flour in there already with the mushrooms or not yet?
Not yet, because you're gonna burn your flour before you cook your mushrooms through.
Great. So we're still cooking out the mushrooms and the onion. And then when do you add the water? Another question came in.
All right, sorry, I missed that.
Oh, no worries. When do you add the water?
So the water, so the way we're gonna do it is when our onions and mushrooms, when we feel they're where we want it to be, we're gonna put the flour and a little bit more butter in. And then and we're gonna toast that.
Yeah, if we have this brown, we don't need to.
Yeah, we don't need to cook it through too much.
We don't need to brown the flour.
Yeah, and so yeah, the flour is gonna go in, and then that butter just helps absorb the flour and helps it get a little bit more evenly distributed in there. And so we're cooking this on high just so we can get it done. Medium high and medium's fine. I like to get a little bit of color. And you would add salt here. This is these are drippings we froze. So this is actually not stock, it's a gravy. I actually got this from work from a big roast. So it already has salt in it. So we're not adding salt, but at this stage you would want to season your onions and your mushrooms. And especially if you're using water, this needs to be seasoned well.
We're not using pepper box.
No pepper, no black for taco, no black pepper.
But
Okay, so
guests at home can certainly add some pepper at this step too, I assume.
yeah, of course.
Perfect. Yeah.
Oh, there's pepper in here. You can't have this.
I'll suffer.
Yeah, there you go. There's pepper in here. Taco's gonna.
Mine doesn't.
Oh, there we go. We have one with no pepper and one with pepper. So you can see at the bottom, I'm getting a little bit. Now I'm cooking this very high, so it's gonna get dark quickly. So we're gonna add a little bit of butter and then that flour right now, just to kind of cook it out. I'm gonna grab that. You have a spoon. Oh, now we're not prepared.
Hey, I'm not sure.
There we go. Yeah, cameraman's helping out. So don't be shy with the butter. You want to have equal parts butter and flour. So I'm putting in a little knob, so about that's about 3/4 to half a tablespoon. So I'm going to melt that butter in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the same amount of flour and just incorporate that. And then what I'm looking for is like a smooth little paste. So this stage, if you're using water or a weaker sauce, you would cook it out. Because we have a pretty dark stock, you can still cook it out. I like to get as much flavor out of it as possible. But because of just for the video, we're cooking pretty high heat. We're starting to get a darkness on the bottom of the pan. That's delicious. Just, you don't want to burn it is all. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to slowly add it in. So I
You're
just
slowly adding in the broth for sure. Question,
Yeah.
if someone is substituting oil instead of using butter, would it still be equal parts?
Yeah. It's any fat. So any fat you use. Now butter is it's got a lot of flavor. But yeah, equal parts no matter what fat. So you can see as I'm cooking it, it's turning into a paste. If you added all the liquid in at once, you're not going to actually cook it, or it's not going to incorporate and you will get clumps. But I've got this paste going and that's lovely. And then as I add more liquid, the more I can add. And this will loosen up. And this will just give you a very velvety, you can see it's already starting to look great, but it'll give you a very velvety texture.
And it looks like you're constantly whisking there. So
Yeah,
adding
so
slowly.
yeah, but as it's thicker, and you can see the bottom now, it's coming clean. And now that I've gotten in, I'd say 1/4 of our liquid, I don't have to worry about it burning as much. When you have that flour in the early stages, it's going to burn very easily. So just using a spatula, you can use a whisk for this too. But you're just moving and you keep moving it. And at this point, as it comes up to heat, it'll feel loose.
but when it comes up to temperature again and starts to simmer, it'll start to thicken up on you again. And now you want to add the liquid slowly just to get it to the texture you want. I like my sauce pretty loose, but just so it coats anything it's on. Some people like it a lot thicker. And then what you can do is if you've added too much liquid and you want it thicker, you can mix the flour and butter in a separate bowl just so they're mixed well and slowly pinch it in and whisk it really well. And that'll actually thicken it as well without any lumps. Or if you're Baba and you just don't get lumps.
Well,
Or
that's,
just get Baba to do it for you.
yeah, she's a miracle worker there. So,
Yeah.
so as you're adding that in slowly, question, can you use chicken stock or beef, or is beef stock recommended? Do you have a preference?
No, either or. It honestly depends what you're having it with. If you're having it with beef, I would use a beef stock. You can still use chicken stock. I wouldn't use a beef stock if you're having chicken, because that could overpower it. You can even use a pork stock, not as common. But chicken can go with beef, pork, and anything. Chicken's very versatile. Beef is very strong. So it's going to be a very beefy flavor if you use the beef stock. And if you're having chicken, which is a more delicate meat, it's going to overpower it a little bit.
And then also question, can you use mushroom stock? I would guess
Yeah,
yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really good, especially for Christmas. That's a great alternative to water because water doesn't add anything to it. Waters, if you're in a pinch, you can use it. I would be using a mushroom stock and just adding as much flavor as possible. But yeah.
Wonderful. So as that's cooking there, I think it froze just for a second on the phone there, but I think we're switching back to the computer.
Technical difficulties?
Yes, we cooked the phone.
Oh dear.
That's okay. We're back on the computer screen here, Mykola.
So we cooked the iPhone. So just so you know, if your iPhone overheats, you can't use it. So hopefully the iPhone's okay.
It's cooling down.
So
Well, we hope so.
we do how we mix with the dog's really funny right now.
Okay, so
yeah, Mama, you go ahead.
So I've just mixed up some mushroom better than bouillon with a half a cup of water. And I'm putting this on top of the buckwheat cabbage rolls. And again, I won't need all of it. I sprayed a little bit of the spray non-stick or the Pam, I don't know what the generic term is, over top. A little bit of salt. I'm going to add a little bit of oil, and then we're going to cover it up, and this is all going to go into the oven as well.
So this is just an alternative way to do the holubtsi as well. So did you say you also put the cabbage on the bottom too?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, perfect.
And this is the buckwheat. This is the rest of the meat and rice filling. And Baba's going to pour the tomato juice on top because she's the expert on the tomato juice. Okay, that's buckwheat. This is.
What did you put in? Just the.
Do this. You're on camera live.
So now we're doing the tomato juice there,
Yeah.
pouring it on top. I think Mykola last time said just to make sure half an inch or an inch on the base, right?
Yeah, well, I just kind of tilt it to see how much there is. Yeah.
But yeah, make sure they're all covered.
So now we can use these leaves.
Yes. Oh, I forgot to cover. I forgot to cover the buckwheat.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, don't want to make sure your holubtsi burns, so make sure you cover them up with other extra leaves. Or if you not, you did mention foil earlier. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one cabbage made the flat one. There's a lot of leaves. And most of them I cut into 3 because they were so big. So you're able to do that.
Now I've covered it all up. It's fine now. So
Okay.
Perfect. So you've covered it up. Quick question back about the mushroom sauce. Have you used cream instead of water or stock to make it more?
no, I've never
Oh.
used it, but I know people that have. And I tried it, and to be very frank, I didn't like it.
I love it. It's not wrong. It's
No.
not wrong.
You can, but yeah, I did like it.
It's very tasty with the cream, but it's also very fattening.
Yeah.
So we tend to not do it that way. Mykola, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, if you use cream,
Pass me that.
oh, that's too hot. If you use cream, if you're using a stock, you can incorporate more flavor. So cream is just a lot of fat, so you're gonna have more of a fat feel in your mouth, which is really good. But with stock, you're able to incorporate more flavor into the sauce. So the character of the sauce will be a little richer rather than heavy. So that's why, and you can do it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a cream sauce.
Yeah.
For sure. Some individuals are saying it'd be common on the farm. So I guess whatever you have is what you can use. Any other tips for the holubtsi? I know we're coming to the end. We have about 5 minutes left until 5 o'clock. So just want to make sure we've covered all the bases. Everyone's comfortable at home and can finish up and
So
cook their
I'm just
holubtsi.
going to show you that we still have some cabbage leaves left over that were cut. That's going to go into a Ziploc bag and into the freezer for our next cabbage roll session. Tips on baking: make sure that you do not forget to turn down your oven to 325 after 1 hour of baking. So 350 for 1 hour, and then 1 hour at 325. At about the hour and 35 minutes, you can test your cabbage to make sure that it's baked, but I would suggest to go for the full 2 hours.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. You can even turn the oven to down to 300.
Mama, come here.
Okay, so here's the mushroom sauce. I don't know, I'll probably cook the laptop now. So that's the texture we're getting, and you can see it's just coating the spatula, but it falls off. So you can make it thicker just by adding less liquid, and be careful just not to spill it all over the laptop.
Okay, let me see. Oh, this
Gotta
is
get the check mark of approval, seal of approval there.
perfect.
Perfect. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Quick question before we wrap up. Where do you buy better than bouillon? Question for you.
Any grocery store, can they hear you?
Yeah, any grocery store, you can, it's usually, I don't know, I never buy it. Make your own stock, it's cheap, it's easy, and it's delicious.
I will show you what it
But
looks
Mama,
like. So where you buy other bouillons, you'll see this on the shelf. And then once you open it, you have to refrigerate it.
so this is a base rather than those cubes.
Yes,
and
it's a base.
it is salty, so you have to adjust your salt accordingly. So know that it does have salt in it. But it's really good.
For sure. Or of course, like Mykola said, you can make your own. And how long does mushroom sauce keep for? So just
If you use cream, it's very difficult to reheat because it'll split. So the advantage of using the flour as well is you can use it the next day easier. If you use cream, it won't. With stock, a couple days.
Kept it longer, yeah.
3-4 days, you can go a week, it won't be as good.
Yeah.
And then you're risking foodborne illness, but that's just because I'm
Well, no,
hyper
I would
obsessed with that, but
3 days, at the most.
With the cream sauce.
Yeah.
But
I'm
mushroom sauce
I'm
will
sure it'll get eaten fast enough.
yeah.
Perfect. So we're coming to an end here. I think these are all our tips and tricks. Everyone's sharing where they buy their stock, and also thank you for sharing if you are sharing those tips in the chat. We'll wrap up unless your family has any other last words.
No.
Well, the only thing I can add is that if you're in the early fall, to buy your cabbages.
For
Because-
sure. Buy it early.
Yes.
And then, like you said, you can always freeze it.
That's right.
Definitely, yeah, and that's what we do.
And my tip is try it with the dill. The dill is really good. Just these two don't like dill.
Oh, I love dill, but not in
Yeah.
cabbage.
Yeah, let's be clear, they don't go in the cabbage
Oh,
rolls. We
they
like
do.
dill.
I've even had dill sprinkled on top of cabbage rolls.
And also, buckwheat
What?
cabbage rolls, you can put pieces of bacon on top when you're baking it instead of oil, and it's delicious.
It gives it a different flavor.
Yeah.
It definitely takes on the flavor of the bacon, and it's not a fried bacon taste. It's the flavor of the bacon. So if you have an applewood smoke maple, that's the flavor you're going to get. So try to get a bacon that's not flavored, that it's a real bacon, and it does take on a very different flavor than the fried bacon that you would have.
Well,
Very good.
we'll have to try all those tips for sure. So as we do come to a wrap up here, I do want to say a few thank yous. And first of all, let's thank the guests for all your participation. If you have any photos, or actually if you finished up your Holubtsi, feel free to send your photos to our cultural Gmail address. We'll be sure to post them on socials. And I want to, of course, thank you, Mykola, for leading us through the workshop. And Pani Maskaluk and Pani Darcia, of course, for sharing all your tips and tricks. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone in the audience has as well. So, and thank you, Bob and Cassie as well. Hopefully your phone on that end is okay and doesn't overheat too much. So thank you all again. And of course, a sincere thank you to our sponsors, to the Shevchenko Foundation, the Temerty Foundation Community Development Fund, and the Seuss Foundation of Canada, and Delta Bingo and Gaming for making this event possible. But of course, if you enjoyed the event and you'd like the programming to continue, feel free to make a donation through the website or the link in the chat. I'd like to also thank Oksana Havrelak for the beautiful web and Facebook and Instagram designs for this event, and our SVI librarian, Helena Ostapchuk, for posting some of your cooking resources available in the SVI Facebook library. So sorry, use our SVI Facebook and SVI library and to Facebook. So available both in person and remotely. So you can borrow them directly by contacting her. So like I mentioned, feel free to send over your photos to us, or you can post them and tag SVI Holubtsi. So hashtag SVI Holubtsi. We want to make sure to see what you've been creating and enjoying your dinners, of course. We do have a few actually events coming up. So we'd love to see you again soon. We have an event on November 26th, actually with our in-house partner, the Holodomor Research and Education Consortium. So they are doing an annual Ukrainian famine lecture. So check them out on November 26th. On December 16th, we'll be back with Marichka Marchik, learning some koledki, winter songs, of course. And then on December 19th, tune in and make your holiday diduch with Oksana Havrelak. So those are some of our events in 2021. But then, of course, 2022 is just around the corner. So join us for our annual Malanka. It will be virtual. So stay tuned for promotions and details regarding that on January 21st. So don't forget to mark all those dates in your calendars. We hope to see you soon. Thank you, of course, to everyone who attended tonight, and enjoy, and smuchnoha, and we'll see you again. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.